I brought my husband's cell phone into the repair shop. The technician, a man I'd known since he was a teenager trying to fix his first cracked iPod screen, pulled me aside with a grave look that wiped the humor clean off his face. "Zahara," he said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper that seemed too loud in the quiet shop. "Cancel your credit cards and change your home's security codes right now. Don't go home alone tonight." I blinked, the movement feeling slow, as if my 66-year-old brain couldn't process the simple sequence of words. "Jamal Williams, what in the world are you talking about? Has someone hacked Elijah's phone?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned closer to the workbench, his shadow falling over the cracked glass of the device. Jamal turned the phone screen toward me, and there they were, perfectly clear, chillingly precise. A list of scheduled messages that laid out the logistics of my death with the cool efficiency of a grocery list. I've always believed that the quiet, everyday choices are the most revealing. The ones we make without thinking, driven by habit, and the comfortable belief that tomorrow will look exactly like today. That Tuesday morning in Charleston, South Carolina, the air thick with the damp, musky smell of the low country, I made one such choice. I picked up Elijah's phone from the cherry wood nightstand we bought on our 40th wedding anniversary. I noticed the hairline fracture in the screen he'd been grumbling about for weeks, that tiny, spider-webbed flaw, and decided to take it straight to Jamal Williams's shop off King Street, right between the popular coffee spot and the black-owned bookstore. It was a chore, an act of wifely maintenance, nothing more. My name is Zahara Toussaint. I'm 66 years old. Elijah and I have been married for 41 years, long enough for our lives to have settled into a deep, predictable rut that I had, until that moment, mistaken for security. We raised 3 children. Langston, our careful, detail-oriented lawyer in Atlanta, Nia, the fiery artist in New Orleans, and Kimani, our sensitive youngest boy who was teaching high school history back in Charlotte. We raised them in our restored historic home in Cannonboro, Elliottboro, watching them grow, head off to college, and return for the holidays with our grandchildren in tow, filling the tall ceilings with their joyful noise. I worked as a reference librarian for 37 years before retiring, a profession that taught me the value of data, research, and quiet persistence. Elijah, a successful dentist, still practices 3 days a week, though he constantly talks about retiring fully, selling the practice, buying a condo somewhere smaller, lighter. We are, by all accounts, comfortable, established, and safe. We are, I thought, a success story. Elijah had already left for his office that morning, the heavy thud of the front door closing at 7:30 a.m., precisely on schedule. The night before, he'd been noticeably jumpy, pacing the kitchen floorboards, which creaked in a familiar, comforting rhythm, and checking his phone over and over, his thumb swiping the screen with restless energy. When I asked him what the matter was, a rare intrusion into his world, he gave me that practiced, calming smile, the one he used for his most anxious patients, and assured me, "Just a minor issue with the clinic's billing software, Zahara. Nothing to worry your pretty head about." I'd learned long ago not to press Elijah when he used that tone. Our marriage, I now realize, wasn't built on mutual understanding, but on a foundation of clearly defined boundaries and silent concession. He managed the investments, the practice, and the vast, cold logic of money. I managed the home, the social life, and the warm, complex logic of family. It worked. It had always worked, or so I believed, by creating separate spheres that rarely intersected. Jamal's Electronics was more than a shop. It was a neighborhood landmark, a brightly lit sanctuary of modern technology in the heart of a historically black business district. Jamal himself was practically family. His son Malik was in my book club, constantly challenging my interpretations of Toni Morrison. His wife Shonda, a sorority sister, had brought me her famous Gullah chicken soup when I had the flu a few years back, staying late to gossip and braid my hair. The community was an intricate, tightly woven quilt, and Jamal was a strong thread in its pattern. The bell above the door chimed, a cheerful, brassy sound that felt deeply inappropriate for the terror I was about to receive. Jamal looked up from a laptop he was dissecting, his reading glasses perched on his forehead like a small crown. "Mrs. Toussaint, what brings you by so early? Did your Kindle finally give up the ghost?" "Elijah's phone," I said, holding up the cracked device. "He's been carrying it around like this for a month, acting like he's too busy for a simple repair. You know how men are about minor inconveniences." Jamal chuckled, the comfortable sound of shared exasperation over the male species. "Gotcha. Leave it with me. Should be ready by 4 o'clock, maybe sooner." He paused, reaching for a work order slip. "What's the access code? His old 4-digit PIN?" I recited the 6 digits. His mother's birth date. 06-12-56. The same code he'd used for everything, his briefcase, his luggage, his bank debit card, since the day we met. Simple. Predictable. Elijah Montgomery was not a man who appreciated complexity, a fatal flaw I had failed to observe for 4 decades. "Perfect," Jamal said. "I'll call you when I'm done." I spent the day like any other, walking through the motions of the life Elijah had planned to erase. I attended my aqua aerobics class at the community center, letting the cool, buoyant water ease the stiffness in my joints. Lunch was with my friend Aisha, who lamented her daughter's messy divorce with the weary resignation of a mother who saw the train coming but couldn't halt the momentum. Then, a trip to the supermarket. I bought a 2-pound cut of wild-caught salmon for dinner, expensive, shimmering pink and silver under the fluorescent lights, because Elijah loved it, paired with a Sauvignon Blanc I knew he enjoyed. I was curating my own final meal, and I didn't even know it. The call came at 3:30. "Mrs. Toussaint, it's Jamal. The phone's repaired, but—" He hesitated. The silence was not the comfortable, professional pause of a busy technician. It was a deep, chilling shift in the atmosphere, thick with unspoken dread. "Could you come in? I need you to see something. And please, please come alone." "Is there an issue with the screen? Did you lose his data?" I asked, my voice thin. "No, the screen is perfect. The data is all there. Just please come back now, and please come alone." I had known Jamal for 15 years. I'd never heard that careful, almost frightened tone in his voice. The 12-minute drive back to King Street felt like hours stretched by taffy. At 66, you learn to recognize the moments just before the earth moves. My hands were steady on the steering wheel, gripped at 10 and 2, but my heart was drumming against my ribs like a trapped bird beating its wings against its cage. Jamal was waiting by the door. He didn't greet me. He simply ushered me inside, locked the door with a sharp metallic clack, and flipped the sign to "closed." He led me, without a word, to his back repair station, a clean, fluorescent-lit area smelling of solder and isopropyl alcohol. Elijah's phone sat on the bench, screen dark and gleaming, impossibly whole. "Zahara," he said, his voice stripped of all professional pretense. The use of my first name, shorn of the respectful Mrs. Toussaint, confirmed my deepest, unarticulated fears. This was beyond business. This was personal. "You need to hear me. You need to act. Cancel the accounts. Change the home locks today, right now. I've never seen anything like this, Zahara." The room seemed to tilt violently. I gripped the cool edge of the workbench, the laminated surface digging into my palms to steady myself. "What in the name of God are you saying, Jamal?" When I was testing the new screen, I had to transfer some data to ensure function. I stumbled across something in his messages, scheduled messages. Jamal's jaw worked, his eyes wide and sick with regret. I almost wish I hadn't looked. I almost wish I'd just deleted it as a glitch. But once I saw the first few lines, "Zahara, you have to see this for yourself." He picked up the phone, unlocked it with the code I'd given him, and navigated to a feature I didn't know existed, a hidden folder labeled Delayed Sends. There were 7 messages, all addressed to the same external number, all set to send over the next 3 months, timed with chilling mathematical precision. Jamal handed me the phone, pulling his hand away as if the device were poisonous. "I am so sorry, Zahara, for all of this." I read the first message, then the second. By the third, the breath had abandoned my lungs, and the world had gone cold and metallic. I had to sit down on the stool behind me. The messages were from Elijah to someone identified only as S. They weren't clumsy, passionate love notes of an aging man's infidelity. They were cold, logistical, and frighteningly precise instructions. The text was a blueprint of my execution, a business plan for my erasure. The life insurance policy is in the safe deposit box at the Wells Fargo branch. Key is under the second row of books, the old leather-bound set of Kipling in the study. Death benefit is $750,000. Zahara's signature is already on file with the company. They won't question it. I've been documenting her cognitive issues and forgetfulness discreetly with Dr. Alston since August. This establishes a verifiable pattern if questions arise later. The current will leave everything to the kids, but I'm the designated executor. I'll control the distribution and, with her memory issues, they won't contest. Once the probate clears, we can access the funds without suspicion. 6 months, maybe 8, for complete freedom. Remember, grief is expected. The performance must be flawless. I'll play the devastated widower. The community, especially the church and her friends like Aisha, will support me completely. No one questions a man who's lost his wife of 4 decades to a sudden tragic decline. My vision tunneled down to the crisp white font on the screen. The financial betrayal was a sharp blow, but the mention of Dr. Alston, our family physician and a friend for 20 years, was a betrayal that went bone deep. He was fabricating a medical history, turning my very mind into a weapon against me. I scrolled, my thumb shaking slightly, to the final message, scheduled to send exactly 3 months from today. It's done. The homegoing service was yesterday. I handled the eulogy, though it was difficult, as planned. Everything went according to plan, right down to the color of the flowers. No one suspects a thing. I'll see you in South Beach next week, Flight 307. The condo is ready, and the deed is in both our names now. Our new life starts now, S. The date of that message was January 12th. In Elijah's mind, I was already dead and buried. I don't know who S is. Jamal's voice came from far away, a dull buzzing sound. I don't know his specific plan, how he intends to do it, but these messages... Zahara, he's documenting your death before it happens. He is planning to murder you for financial gain. I looked up at him. Jamal's face was pale, his large hands trembling slightly as he held his own phone. This man, a father and pillar of the community, was standing witness to the collapse of my entire existence. Have you told anyone else? My voice, when it came out, was unnervingly calm, the flat, steady tone of a librarian addressing a noisy patron. No, Jesus, no. I called you straight away. Zahara, we need to call the police, right now. You can't go home. No, I repeated, a hard, cold core of pure, unadulterated resolve forming in my chest. I stood fully, using the workbench for support, not out of weakness, but to anchor myself to the reality of the situation. If we call the police now, what do we have? Messages on a phone. He'll say they were drafts, some sick, messed-up fiction he was writing. He's Dr. Elijah Toussaint, a respected dentist, a church elder, and a prominent homeowner. I'm a retired librarian he's been telling people has minor cognitive issues. Who do you think they'll believe, Jamal? Who will the jury see as the unstable one? Jamal knew I was right. The system always defaults to trusting the prominent, wealthy man. I looked back at the phone, at the messages that laid out my death like a doctor's appointment. Clinical, scheduled, inevitable. I need to copy these, I said, picking up the device. Every single one. And then I need you to repair this phone as if nothing, absolutely nothing, ever happened. Not a single data trace must be disturbed. Zahara, what are you going to do? You are going to put yourself in danger. I thought about Elijah pacing the kitchen last night. Was he checking these messages, ensuring they were queued? Planning my murder with the same careful attention he used to plan our family's elaborate trip to the Tuscan countryside 2 years ago? The sheer arrogance of it was what finally broke the shock and left a burning residue of rage. "I'm going to find out who S is," I said quietly, the word S tasting like ash. "I'm going to find out exactly what he's planning, and then I'm going to make sure the only funeral that happens in January is the one for his career and his reputation." Jamal stared at me, then slowly, reluctantly, pulled out his own phone. "I'll take screenshots, every screen. I'll send them to my encrypted email account. We need hard evidence that's outside the phone, evidence of the time and date I found them." As he photographed each text, I forced myself to reread them again, focusing past the initial shock and panic and into the research mode I'd perfected as a librarian. Elijah had been laying groundwork for months, fabricating a medical narrative, reviewing our finances, our life insurance, our entire estate. He'd found someone, this mysterious S, to conspire with, to run away to a new life in South Beach. His confidence was stunning. He was so certain of success that he'd scheduled messages to send after my death, detailing my eulogy. He'd made one crucial, arrogant mistake, the kind men like Elijah always made when they stopped seeing the woman beside them and only saw the fixture. He had underestimated me. He looked at his 66-year-old wife, the one who did morning yoga, attended her service organization meetings, and cooked his expensive salmon dinners, and saw someone easily erased. He forgot that librarians are master researchers, that we know how to trace connections, build cases from scattered facts, and that a black woman who survives this long in this world is rarely a naive victim. Jamal finished, the process taking 5 agonizing minutes. "It's done. The pictures are locked down. What now?" "Now you fix this screen beautifully, Jamal. And when Elijah picks it up tomorrow, you tell him everything worked perfectly. No data lost, no problems at all. Tell him you had to run a diagnostic to check the accelerometer, but that's it." "And you, Zahara?" I slipped the phone into my purse, feeling the cold weight of the device, a weapon of betrayal now turned into a tool for retribution. "I'm going home to make dinner, and then I'm going to start pulling every thread of my husband's carefully constructed lie." I walked out of that repair shop into the Charleston afternoon. The sun was setting over the Ashley River, painting the sky a dangerous, deceptive gold and crimson. Beautiful, deceptive, just like 41 years of marriage that had hidden a murder plot beneath its calm surface. Elijah wanted me dead by January 12th. He was going to be severely disappointed. I cooked the salmon that evening with the mechanical precision that comes from 4 decades of muscle memory. Sear for 4 minutes, finish with a sprig of fresh lemon and dill. Asparagus roasted crisp tender on the side. I moved through our large open-plan kitchen with its expensive granite countertops I'd chosen and the copper pots Elijah's mother had gifted us, feeling like a ghost haunting my own life. Every object, the Cuisinart mixer, the neatly stacked plates, the woven runner rug, was a monument to a lie I had maintained. Elijah arrived home at 6:15, exactly as he had for 41 years. I heard his key in the lock, the familiar pattern of his footsteps, heavy, purposeful, a man who knows he owns the space he walks into. He appeared in the doorway, still wearing his immaculate white dental coat, and smiled. "Something smells wonderful, dear," he said, kissing my cheek. His lips felt cold against my skin, the brief contact making my stomach clench. "How was your day, Elijah?" I asked, my voice level, the tone I'd perfected over 4 decades of performance, the agreeable, slightly passive wife. "Long. Mrs. Davenport needed a root canal, and you know how she talks. Complains about the humidity, the potholes, the entire state legislature." He loosened his silk tie, the small, familiar gesture of coming home, of shedding the professional skin. "How about yours? What did you do today, Zahara? Did you meet with Aisha?" This was the test, the first subtle hurdle. I set down the spatula and turned to face him, leaning casually against the kitchen island. I had a good day. And yes, I took your phone to Jamal's. He said he'd finish the final testing overnight so you can pick it up first thing tomorrow morning on your way into the office. I watched his face, searching for the smallest flicker of panic, a twitch around his eyes, a tightening of the jaw, any sign that he remembered the danger hidden in that device. Nothing. His smile was steady, his eyes clear and dismissive. The arrogance was staggering. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, dear. I kept meaning to do that, but the practice has been a mess. He pulled a light beer from the fridge, the hiss of the can opening sounding like a serpent. Jamal do his usual good work? Perfect as always, I said, turning back to the salmon, allowing the facade of normalcy to settle over the kitchen like a thin, invisible gas. He didn't suspect. He had planned my murder with such clinical confidence that it never occurred to him that the phone, the simple tool of his business, might betray him. Arrogance. It would be his downfall, just as it had been his companion for the last 4 decades. We ate dinner at the mahogany table, polished so fine it reflected the overhead chandelier. Elijah talked about his new assistant and Langston's upcoming visit for Thanksgiving. Normal conversation, routine lies. Actually, Elijah said, setting down his fork, his eyes holding a look of manufactured concern, I've been thinking about the holidays. Maybe we should have everyone here this year. A big, spectacular gathering. Our last big gathering before... He trailed off, gesturing vaguely around the grand dining room. Before what, Elijah? I asked, forcing the question out, the ice crystallizing in my gut. Before we get too old for this big place, he said smoothly, taking a sip of wine. I've been considering downsizing, maybe a condo closer to the water. Less maintenance, less upkeep. He reached across the table and patted my hand, the gesture patronizing and intimate at the same time. And honestly, Zahara, I've been worried about you. The stairs, the sheer size of the garden, your memory lately. I think something smaller, simpler, might be better for your peace of mind. My memory? There it was. He was laying groundwork even at the dinner table, making his case for my decline in the most insidious way possible, with supposed care. My memory is fine, Elijah, I said quietly, meeting his gaze. My hand did not flinch beneath his. Of course it is, dear, he replied with that damnable practiced smile. I just want what's best for you. For us. After dinner, Elijah retreated to his study, a dark, mahogany-paneled domain of professional journals, tax records, and the carefully locked safe deposit key. His domain. I cleaned the kitchen with manic precision, scrubbing away every trace of our shared, terrible meal. Then I went upstairs. I looked at our bedroom, the queen bed we'd shared for 4 decades, the wedding photos on the dresser, all framed in silver. Which side of the bed would Serafina Vance sleep on once I was dead? Would she move the photos? Would she even bother to change the sheets? I sat at the corner desk, opened my laptop, and began to search. Finding S would not be easy. A single initial offered no digital trail. But Elijah was a creature of habit, and habits leave digital footprints. I started with his personal email using the same mother's birthdate code. He'd never bothered to hide his accounts. Why would he? I was just Zahara, his agreeable wife, the one who handled the grocery order, not the spreadsheets. His inbox was mundane, a tedious chronicle of a respectable, privileged life. Practice updates, golf course tea time confirmations, investment firm newsletters. I scrolled back 6 months, looking for an S name. Nothing. I checked his sent folder and deleted items. Hours passed in the quiet house, only the gentle hum of the refrigerator for company. At 11 o'clock, I found the first thread. It was in a folder I almost missed, labeled, with staggering banality, Private Client Docs. Buried among legitimate emails from dental supply companies and an outdated financial planner was a message from 3 months ago addressed to someone named S. Vance. The partnership contract is ready for your review. Once this is finalized and signed, we can move forward with the operational aspects of the acquisition. I've attached the financials you requested. As you can see, the practice is quite profitable, more than enough for both of us to secure the relocation. Partnership. S. Vance wasn't just a lover. This was business, a planned liquidation. I opened the attachment. It was a detailed financial statement of Elijah's dental practice, but the numbers were nearly 3 times what he'd shown me on our tax forms. He had been skimming and hiding profit for years. The practice was valued at nearly $2 million net, and there was a chilling notation at the bottom. Asset liquidation timeline, January 2025. January, the month I was supposed to die. My hands shook, but my mind was utterly clear. I knew what I had to do. I searched for more emails from S. Vance. There were 7, each carefully hidden in the same folder. The story developed like a Polaroid picture. Serafina Vance, 42 years old, was a business consultant specializing in high-value medical practice acquisitions. The emails started professionally, discussing valuations and mergers, but by the 3rd, the tone had shifted entirely. I appreciate your discretion regarding the personal aspects of this transition. As discussed, a clean break from your current situation will make the sale and relocation much simpler and less legally messy. I'm looking forward to our new arrangement in Florida. Current situation, he meant me, the wife he couldn't afford to divorce. Then, an email from late August. I've reserved the condo in South Beach. 2 bedrooms, a private balcony, ocean view as you requested. We can close as soon as your affairs here are settled. Don't worry about the deposit. I handled it through the shell company. I clicked the listing photos. A luxury condominium, all white marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the turquoise Atlantic. A $2 million price tag, to be purchased with the proceeds from Elijah's practice and, presumably, my life insurance. I took screenshots of everything, the transfers, the valuation, the pictures of the condo, emailed them to a private, encrypted address I'd created years ago for family documents, and cleared my browser history. It was past midnight when I finally climbed into bed beside my husband. He was already asleep, snoring softly, one arm flung across my pillow. I lay rigid in the dark and listened to him breathe, listened to the rhythmic sound of the man who planned to kill me. Had I really never seen the cold, calculating stranger beneath the surface? Or had I simply chosen 41 years ago to ignore the truth in favor of comfort? The next morning, I drove not to the community center, but to the main branch of the Charleston County Library. The building was an anchor of my life, smelling of old paper, polished wood, and possibility. I knew every resource, every database, and every person who worked there. Zahara! Marian Andrews, the head reference librarian and my former protege, smiled warmly from behind the main desk. Missing us already? Come back to check on your old Dewey Decimals? Can't stay away, dear, I said, forcing a return smile. Marian, I need a massive, urgent favor. I need to research someone, and it has to be quiet, absolutely confidential. Marian's expression sharpened, the academic curiosity in her eyes replaced by the deep loyalty of a friend who knew my voice too well. Come into my office, Zahara. The door has a lock. In the small, windowless office, beneath the hum of the fluorescent lights, I told her a carefully edited version of the truth, that I suspected Elijah was planning a massive financial exit, selling his practice and leaving the country, and that I needed everything on his supposed business partner, Serafina Vance. I didn't mention the murder. That truth was too big to speak aloud yet, a terrible, poisonous thing I had to keep contained. Serafina Vance, Marian repeated, typing quickly, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Let's see what corporate filings and public records turn up. Over the next 3 hours, the results were damning. Serafina Vance was a consultant specializing in medical practice acquisitions. She was 42, divorced, based in Atlanta, but had recently relocated to Charleston to oversee a significant new acquisition. She's local? I asked, leaning over the screen. Very. She bought a penthouse downtown on East Bay Street 6 months ago. Paid cash, $800,000. Where did a consultant get that kind of money, Marian? A quick search of her LinkedIn profile shows her company dissolved 2 years ago. Marion, eyes widened in alarm, traced the woman's financial history through a maze of corporate records and bank transfers. Serafina had been drowning in debt from a spectacular business failure 2 years prior. The East Bay condo had been purchased through a Nevada-based shell company, and the money had been transferred directly from an account belonging to Elijah's dental practice. "Zahara," Marion said carefully, pushing her glasses up her nose, "this woman appears to be either embezzling funds from your husband's practice, or he's funding her entire life," I finished, a bitter, cold laugh catching in my throat. Elijah had given Serafina Vance $800,000. He'd promised her a $2 million condo in South Beach. He was planning to sell his practice and disappear with her in January. The only thing standing in his way was me, the inconvenient obstacle he planned to remove by fabricating my demise. "There's something else," Marion whispered, clicking into a different database. "I found court records. Serafina Vance was investigated for elder fraud in Atlanta 3 years ago. A client, another older wealthy professional, accused her of manipulating him into signing over assets. The case was dismissed due to lack of evidence, but she has a pattern." Elder fraud. Elijah was 68. How much of a fool did he think I was? "He thinks he's using her to plan my death," I realized, the horrifying pieces finally clicking together. But she's planning his. Once I'm dead and he's confessed to murder in his messages, he becomes a massive liability. She'll have full control of the assets they liquidate. He'll be next. Marion's face went white. "Zahara, we need to call the police right now. You can't go home." "No, I need proof of how he intends to kill me. Right now it's just intent and motive. I need the mechanism." My phone rang, making me jump. Elijah's number. I answered, my voice steady, the calmest voice in Charleston. "Hello, Stella." "Zahara." "Where are you? The library?" His voice was tight, thin with contained panic. "The library. Why? Is everything all right, Elijah?" "I need you to come home now. We have a visitor. Dr. Alston stopped by because honestly, you were too anxious to come into the office for your checkup. He agreed to a brief house call to review the cognitive screening he says he has on file." The room spun, but I gripped the desk. The trap was sprung. "I haven't had a cognitive assessment in 20 years. "Yes, you have, Zahara, last month. Don't you remember? You were at the clinic on September 12th. Zahara, this is exactly what we're concerned about, dear. This confusion." He hung up abruptly. I stared at the phone, the buzzing of the dial tone echoing in my ear. "He's fabricating medical records," I said to Marion, my voice hollow. "He's bringing Dr. Alston, our family doctor, into this, creating documentation of my supposed dementia. If I go home, Dr. Alston will examine me, today, and Elijah will create a paper trail showing I'm incompetent. And once that trail exists, when I die, no one will question the cause." "What are you going to do?" Marion asked, fear overriding her usual calm. "I'm going home," I said, standing tall, pulling my shoulders back. "I'm going to take that cognitive assessment, and I'm going to pass it perfectly. I'm going to be so sharp, so clear, that Dr. Alston will have to discredit his own supposed records." I picked up my purse. "Marion, I need you to keep digging. Everything on Serafina Vance. Every case, every client she ever scammed." "Of course, but Zahara, be careful. That man is dangerous." "I've been careful for 66 years, Marion," I said, walking to the door. "It's time to be something else entirely." I drove home, past the historic churches with their tall spires and the busy market area where tourists were buying sweetgrass baskets. The air smelled of salt and gasoline. Dr. Alston's silver sedan sat in our driveway, a beacon of betrayal. I parked, checked my reflection in the side mirror, neat, composed, utterly sane, and walked into my house, into the lion's den. Elijah and Dr. Alston were waiting in the living room, a formal, unused space I rarely occupied. On the antique mahogany coffee table was a beige folder labeled in neat handwriting, "Cognitive Assessment, Zahara Toussaint." "There you are, dear," Elijah smiled, a look of immense, false relief washing over his face. Dr. Alston was kind enough to stop by. He has some concerns he'd like to review with you. I sat down in the high-backed velvet armchair, facing them both, making a deliberate effort to project calm strength. "Now then, Zahara," Dr. Alston began, his voice professionally gentle. His assessment was designed to make me fail. It was a rapid-fire succession of questions. Draw the clock face, recite 5 words and remember them, count backward from 100 by 7. Elijah watched with barely concealed anticipation, his fingers drumming a nervous rhythm on the arm of the sofa. "What year is it, Zahara? The day of the week?" "It's 2024, October 8th, Tuesday," I answered clearly, without pause. Then I added the sting. "You're wearing the gray tie your wife Clara gave you for your birthday last month, Doctor. I was at the party, remember? You were quite drunk on the single malt scotch." Dr. Alston blinked, a faint flush rising on his neck. Elijah's jaw tightened, the drumming stopping instantly. The assessment continued for 40 tense minutes. I answered every question, recited numbers backward with flawless precision, drew clock faces precisely, and recalled lists without a single stumble. I was polite, charming, sharp, and undeniably competent. "Well," Dr. Alston said, closing his folder with a noticeable snap, "your cognitive function appears completely normal today, Zahara. Perhaps there was an error in the previous testing." "Perhaps there was no previous testing, Doctor," I said quietly. The room went silent, the air growing thick and cold. I turned my gaze fully onto Dr. Alston, stripping away 20 years of pleasantry. "Doctor, I have never been to your office for a cognitive test, yet you have a folder with my name on it containing fabricated results dated September 12th. On September 12th, I was in Atlanta for a library conference. I have receipts, hotel confirmations, and photos from Marian Andrews to prove it. Someone created these documents, Doctor, but they weren't careful enough to check my calendar." Dr. Alston's face flushed a deep crimson. He looked terrified. "There must be some terrible administrative mistake, Robert." Elijah stood abruptly, his composure finally cracking. "Zahara, you need to rest. You're overtired and upset. You're misremembering everything." "I'm not upset, Elijah. I'm clear-headed. Doctor, did my husband ask you to create false medical records, or did he create them himself, intending to implicate you later?" Dr. Alston stammered, gathering his papers with shaking hands. "I think there's been a serious misunderstanding, Robert. We should discuss this privately." "No," I commanded, my voice the sudden ringing authority of a woman who had just stared down her own funeral. "Doctor, I think you should leave, and I think you should consider very carefully what you say about this visit, because creating false medical records for the purpose of financial fraud is a federal crime." Dr. Alston fled the house, his silver sedan peeling out of the driveway like a getaway car. Elijah and I stood in the living room, facing each other across 41 years of wreckage, the space between us charged with the silent violence of his exposed lie. "Stop." I held up a hand as he opened his mouth to lie again. "We both know I'm not confused. We both know exactly what's happening, Elijah." The mask slipped entirely, revealing the cold, selfish calculation of a desperate man. "What exactly do you think is happening, Zahara?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "I think you're planning to have me declared incompetent so you can control our assets, sell the practice, and run away with Serafina Vance." His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, his grip surprisingly strong, driven by panic. "You've been going through my things, haven't you?" "Your unlocked accounts," I corrected, pulling my wrist free with a sharp tug that surprised him. "You never thought I'd look. You underestimated me, Elijah, and that was the biggest mistake of your pathetic life." "All right, let's talk honestly then. Yes, I'm planning to sell the practice. Yes, Serafina is helping me. We've become close." "How close? Close enough to tell me you're planning to leave? Or close enough to tell me you're planning to kill me first?" His face went white, the blood draining instantly. That's insane. Zahara, I would never— January 12th, I cut him off, the date a sharp piece of glass in the air between us. That's the date on your scheduled messages, the one where you tell S, as you call her, that the funeral is over and your new life is beginning. I've read them all, Elijah. Every logistical, bloodless detail. He sat down heavily on the sofa, his shoulders slumping, the fight draining from him. When he looked up, there were tears in his eyes, not of remorse for the murder plot, but for the loss of his clean escape. I never meant for you to find out like this, he whispered. The perfect picture of an apologetic husband. I'm sorry, but you have to understand. I've been unhappy for decades. This marriage, it's been suffocating. Serafina makes me feel alive again. Then get a divorce, I shouted, the quiet control finally snapping. You don't need to kill me to be with her. You just need the courage to sign the papers. It's not that simple. A divorce would destroy me financially. The practice is worth $2 million, Zahara. You know South Carolina is an equitable distribution state. I can't give half of it away. I need all of it for the new life. So you'd rather kill me for it? No. The messages were fantasy, role-playing. Serafina and I were just exploring a dark scenario. Don't, I warned, the cold control rushing back. I know about the condo in South Beach, the $800,000 you've already given her, her history of elder fraud in Atlanta. I know every secret, Elijah. His face hardened again. If you know everything, you know you can't stop this. I control the medical decisions if you become incompetent. And with Dr. Alston's initial records, even if they were fabricated, I can simply call another doctor and have you evaluated. You have no power here, Zahara. You never did. Dr. Alston won't back false records now that I've exposed him. Elijah smiled, a terrible, chilling expression of pure malice. He'll protect himself. He'll say you're paranoid, that you found his trash and created them yourself as proof of your delusion. Who do you think he'll protect? His reputation or the reputation of the difficult older woman who accused him of a federal crime? He was right. I'd made a tactical error. I'd confronted him too soon, sacrificing the shock advantage for a momentary, dangerous catharsis. Now, Elijah said, regaining his control, checking his expensive watch. Now I have a call to make. Then we'll sit down and discuss how this marriage ends peacefully, amicably, or I make the call to have you evaluated by a different team who won't be so easily spooked. Your choice. He walked past me, already on his phone, and closed the study door with a definitive thud. I grabbed my purse. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Marion. Found something urgent. Can you come to the library? Don't call. Just come. I walked toward the front door. Where are you going, Zahara? Elijah's voice snapped from the study doorway, the door suddenly open again. Out, I said, meeting his eyes. We're not finished talking, but I'm not staying here to be threatened. I have an appointment. Yes, we are finished for now. I'm giving you time to think. If you walk out that door, then what? You'll have me committed? Go ahead, try. But I'll tell them everything, Elijah, about Serafina Vance, the $2 million, the scheduled messages planning my death. Let's see whose story they believe, the panicked husband or the collected wife with the documented evidence. It was a bluff, an act of sheer, desperate courage, but it bought me time. I got in my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, Elijah stood in the shadowy doorway, phone pressed to his ear, watching me go, his face a mask of thwarted rage. At the library, Marion was waiting in the same office, her face pale, her hands trembling. The smell of old books was suddenly comforting, a scent of stability. She turned her computer screen toward me. A news article from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution dated 8 months ago. The headline was stark. Prominent local dentist found dead in apparent suicide, business partner under investigation for fraud. I read the article, my eyes scanning the text with the trained speed of my former profession. Dr. James Cole, an Atlanta dentist, had been found dead from an apparent overdose of painkillers in his office. His business consultant, Serafina Vance, had been investigated for financial irregularities, but never charged. There's more. Marion whispered, clicking to another story. 2 years before that, a doctor in Jacksonville. Same pattern, Serafina Vance as a consultant. Sudden death ruled an accident. Carbon monoxide poisoning from a faulty ventilation system in his garage. How many, Marion? I whispered, the words catching in my throat. 3 that I can find. Maybe more. She's done this before, Zahara. She finds successful older men, helps them plan some kind of lucrative exit strategy, and then they die. And she walks away with a fee, and then the liquidated assets. No connection, no charge, no witnesses. Elijah doesn't know this, I said slowly, the horror crystallizing into a terrible protective logic. He thinks he's using her to kill me and run away with the money, but she's planning to kill him too. Maybe make it look like a tragic murder-suicide. Guilty husband, dead wife, tragic, poetic end. You need to warn him, Zahara. Despite everything, you can't let him walk into that. Why should I, Marion? I said bitterly, the injustice of his betrayal overwhelming any shred of pity. He's planning to murder me. Marion's hand closed over mine, her grip surprisingly tight. Because if he dies, this woman, a known predator, walks away with your entire life savings, and our children get caught in a financial nightmare that will take years to untangle. You don't owe him loyalty, but you owe yourself justice, Zahara. And you owe your children their inheritance. She was right. I needed Serafina Vance alive, at least for now, to expose the truth. I need to talk to Serafina Vance, face to face. I need to know her endgame. That's insane, Zahara. She's killed at least 3 people. You're putting yourself in grave danger. She's never been caught, Marion, which means she's calculated. She won't risk exposure by doing anything to me directly in a public setting. She operates through manipulation and distance. I grabbed my purse, the weight of Elijah's phone inside feeling like lead. Where does she live? East Bay Street, Penthouse 4A. Serafina Vance's condo was a converted warehouse building overlooking the harbor, all steel, glass, and harsh modern lines that felt utterly devoid of warmth. The sun was dipping below the horizon as I buzzed her apartment. A long, expectant pause. Miss Vance, my name is Zahara Toussaint. I believe you know my husband, Elijah. I've been expecting you, Zahara. Come up, 4th floor. The code is 421. She was waiting in the doorway of her minimalist, white-on-white living room. She was beautiful, with striking gray threads running through her dark, impeccably styled hair, dressed in a sleek charcoal suit. But her eyes held the cold, magnetic intelligence of a predator observing prey. Mrs. Toussaint, Robert, Elijah, called me this morning. He says you've been acting paranoid, going through his things, making accusations. How convenient for both of you. Serafina smiled, a purely social gesture that did not reach her eyes, and sat on her white leather sofa. Let's not play games, Zahara. You know what's happening. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And more importantly, what will you tell the police? I'm going to stop you, both of you. No, you're not, because you can't prove anything against either of us. The scheduled messages, a morbid joke, a writing exercise, the money, business investments that went sour, the medical records. Elijah will claim he made them in a fugue state of stress. Everything can be explained away. I've done this before, investigated and cleared every time, because I am very, very careful. Why are you telling me this, Serafina? Because I want you to understand your situation, Zahara. Robert is planning to kill you. But here's what he doesn't know. I don't need him. Once you're dead, he becomes a massive liability, a murderer who might confess under pressure. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out over the flickering lights of the harbor. So here is what's going to happen. Elijah is going to kill you, however he's planned it. And then, filled with remorse and guilt, he's going to kill himself. Tragic murder-suicide. I, as his concerned consultant, will liquidate the practice for a substantial fee. You're insane! I'm practical, Zahara, and I'm giving you an opportunity. Work with me. Help me prove Elijah's plan to the police. We'll go together. You, the concerned wife, me, the worried business partner who discovered his declining mental state. We'll turn him in, save your life, and he goes to prison. The practice still needs to be sold, but you'll be alive to benefit from your half. You split the proceeds with me, 1 million for you, 1 million for me. Everyone wins, except Elijah. I stared at the woman who had killed 3 men and was offering me a deal with the devil, her face utterly calm, utterly reasonable. Why would I trust you, Serafina? You plan to murder my husband even if he deserves it. Because you don't have a better choice. Elijah is going to act soon, Zahara, maybe tonight. Your only chance for guaranteed survival is to act first, with me, and turn him in before he can complete the act. He is terrified of you now, terrified of what you know. She checked the thin gold watch on her wrist. I need an answer. You have until midnight. After that, I call Elijah and tell him you know everything, confirming your paranoia. He needs to act immediately to silence you, and I can't be held responsible for his choices. I left the condo, the salt-laced wind off the harbor feeling like ice on my face. I had until midnight. I didn't go home. I drove to the Battery, the ancient promenade overlooking the water, and sat on a cold stone bench. I had 3 hours until Serafina's ultimatum expired. I pulled out the phone. My son, Langston, had texted, "On our way. Should be there by 11. Dad says not to wait up." Elijah was already working the children, confirming the narrative of my decline. "Langston, I need you to listen to me carefully. Your father is lying to you. He's planning something terrible, something criminal. I found evidence of a murder plot." "Mom, where are you? Dad called. He sounds worried sick. He says you've been acting strange, paranoid, making accusations about his business partner. We're all concerned, Mom." His voice was laced with that awful, reluctant doubt that pierced my heart. "Langston, on September 12th, where was I?" I repeated the question from the living room, trying to ground him in fact. A confused pause. I don't know, Mom. I think you were here in Charleston." "No. Your father has medical records claiming I was at Dr. Alston's office having cognitive testing that day, but I was in Atlanta for a library conference. Someone is trying to make me look incompetent so he can control everything without a messy divorce. He's planning to kill me, Langston, and make it look like a decline." That's crazy, Mom," he whispered. "Is it, son? Or does it explain everything that's been happening? Please, just come to Charleston. I'll send you the evidence I have. Then decide what you believe. Look at the financial statements. Look at the scheduled messages." "Okay, I'll come. But I'm bringing Nia and Kaimani with me. We'll all look at it." "Thank you," I said, the relief almost making me weep. "But don't come to the house. Meet me at the police station tomorrow morning, 9:00 a.m. It's important." I called Marion. "I need everything you found on Serafina Vance. Printed, organized, cross-referenced, in the next 2 hours. Meet me at the coffee shop near your house." At 9:00, I called Serafina. "I'll do it, your plan. But I want guarantees and a final meeting. Meet me at the coffee house on King Street, 10:00. We finalize the plan for the police tomorrow." She arrived exactly on time, sliding into the booth. "So you've decided to be smart, Zahara. Survival is paramount." "I've decided to stay alive. That's not the same thing as being smart, Serafina." She pulled out a slim, expensive folder. "This is everything the police will need. Robert's, Elijah's, transfers to me, the fabricated records, the scheduled messages. I have copies too. We go in tomorrow morning. We'll both claim we discovered his descent into madness. And after he's arrested? I get my fee for the liquidation work. You get the rest. We both walk away clean." "Except for the 3 men you killed." Her smile didn't waver, but a terrifying flash of anger crossed her eyes. "I didn't kill anyone. No evidence, no charges, no connection. I'm your best option, Zahara, your only option. You need to drop the moralizing. She checked her watch. My deadline has passed. You made your choice by coming here. Elijah is getting nervous, making his move. He's asking me to come to your house tonight to help him with something. He's planning to act tonight, Zahara, and he wants me there to help stage it as an accident. He's desperate. She stood, picking up her folder. Stay somewhere safe, a hotel. Don't go home. I'll meet you at the police station tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock sharp. Marion materialized at my elbow, taking the recently vacated seat. Did you get it? I pulled the small digital recorder from my purse, a voice recorder I'd borrowed from the library's collection earlier that evening. Every word. She confessed to working with Elijah. She confirmed his plan to kill me. She confirmed she's going to kill him too. That's a start. What now, Zahara? Now I go home. She said he's planning something tonight. She's going to be there. Which means I need to be there to stop it and to document it. Marion, if something happens to me, if I don't call you by midnight, take that folder of research to Detective Jones at the police department. Tell them everything and play them this recording. My children will be there at 9 a.m. I drove home one last time. The air had turned cool, and a thin coastal mist was rolling in, obscuring the historic lamps along the street. Elijah's car was in the driveway. The house was dark except for a lone, warm light in the kitchen. I saw a text from Langston. On our way, should be there by 11. Dad says not to wait up. I texted back immediately. Don't come to the house. Meet me at the police station tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock a.m. It's important. Don't call me back. I walked inside. The front door was unlocked, a detail I filed away. He was expecting company. Elijah, I called out. In the kitchen, dear. I'm waiting for you. He was at the mahogany table, not wearing a dental coat, but a comfortable cashmere sweater. A bottle of my favorite Oregon Pinot Noir was open, 2 glasses poured. I was worried sick, Zahara. I'm glad you're home. Let's talk this through. Where's Serafina? I asked, not moving past the kitchen threshold. His hand tightened on his glass, his knuckles white. Serafina, your business partner? The woman you've given $800,000? The woman you're planning to run away with after I'm dead? Where is she, Elijah? Zahara, for God's sake, she's not coming, is she? You texted her, asked her to come help you, but she didn't respond because she's done with you, Elijah. She got what she wanted, the $800,000. And now you're alone with a wife who knows everything and a murder plot that's falling apart. Elijah set down his glass carefully, the crystal making a sharp, clear sound. The mask of the penitent husband was gone, replaced by a terrifying, desperate rage. How much do you actually know, Zahara? Everything. The messages, the money, Serafina's history, the 3 men she killed before you, your plan to make my death look like a natural accident, like a fall down those lovely historic stairs. I pulled out my phone, the screen showing the recorder app, and I've recorded all of it. Evidence, proof, enough to send you to federal prison for the rest of your life. You're bluffing! Am I? I hit the speaker button. Serafina's voice, tinny but clear, filled the expensive kitchen. He's asking me to come to your house tonight to help him with something. He's planning to do it tonight, Zahara, and he wants me there to help stage it as an accident. Elijah's face drained of color, going slack with genuine terror. You've ruined everything, he whispered, half sobbing. I ruined it. You planned to murder me to avoid a costly divorce. I planned to be free. I wanted to be free from this suffocating life. Serafina offered me a way out, a fantasy, and you couldn't just accept it. So what now? Do you still plan to kill me here tonight with your children on their way? That stopped him cold. I called Langston, told him everything. He's coming here with Nia and Kamani. They'll be here within the hour, and I've sent all the financial evidence to my lawyer and the police. You can't silence me anymore, Elijah. It's over for you. He stared at me, defeated. Then his shoulders slumped. He sat back down and drained his wine glass in one gulp. You think you're so smart. You don't understand what you've done, Zahara. Serafina isn't done with me. She's done with both of us. We are both liabilities now. She can't let either of us talk to the police. The kitchen window shattered with a deafening crash, glass raining down onto the granite countertop and the smooth tile floor. I hit the floor immediately, my body reacting with the primal speed of a hunted animal. Elijah dove under the mahogany table. Footsteps, quick and purposeful, sounded on the back porch, coming from the garden. "She's here," Elijah whispered, genuine, unadulterated terror in his eyes. "God help us, she's here to finish us both." Serafina Vance stepped into my kitchen through the shattered window frame, shards of glass clinging to the charcoal of her suit. She wore black leather gloves, and her presence filled the room with cold, calculating menace. "Both of you on your feet," she said calmly, her voice echoing in the ruined space. "Serafina," Elijah began, crawling out from under the table. "I can explain, she's crazy, she made it all up." "You texted me 6 times tonight, Elijah. Desperate messages begging me to come help you handle Zahara. You made me a co-conspirator in murder, and now I have a liability I need to eliminate." She glanced at me, her eyes glittering with fury. "And you, Zahara, so clever, recording our conversation, gathering evidence. You should have gone to the police immediately. Instead, you came home to confront him. Fatal mistake for both of you." "The police have everything," I lied, my voice shaking slightly, but remaining firm. "No, they don't. You're bluffing, librarian. I know a researcher's instinct. You complete the research before drawing conclusions." She moved toward the cutlery drawer. "It's a perfect murder-suicide. Distraught husband planning to kill his wife gets caught. They struggle, he stabs her, and then, overcome with guilt and rage, he takes his own life." She picked up the lemon-slicing knife from the counter, its tip gleaming under the overhead light. "The whole neighborhood will talk about it for years." "They'll investigate. They'll find the evidence," Elijah cried, scrambling backward. "Evidence I'll provide myself, as the concerned business partner who tried to warn the children about their father's mental decline." She looked at us. "The question is, which of you dies first, Zahara? I think you should watch him go." "You've made a mistake, Serafina," I said quietly, remaining low, my eyes on her hands. "You assumed I came home alone tonight. I've been on an open call with Marian Andrews at the Charleston County Library for the past 20 minutes. She's heard everything you've said, every cold, calculated word." Her perfect smile faltered, her eyes darted toward the phone. "You're lying. That's an old trick." I hit the speaker button, the button I'd been readying the whole time. "Marian, are you there?" "I'm here, Zahara." Marian's voice filled the ruined kitchen, thin but utterly clear. "And I've recorded everything. Serafina Vance, you are currently being recorded, and I am calling the police right now on my other line. They are on their way to 118 Cannonboro Street." Serafina's face flushed with white-hot rage, the elegant mask melting entirely. She lunged for my phone. I threw the scalding coffee from my mug, the same coffee I'd made for Elijah that morning, directly into her face. Serafina screamed, stumbling backward, clawing at her eyes. Elijah lunged for the knife, but I was faster, sweeping it away from both of them and kicking it under the oven. "Out, Elijah! Front door now! Move!" We ran through the house I now knew was mine. I grabbed the keys for his car, the powerful Mercedes he always insisted on driving. We flew down the street toward the police precinct on Meeting Street, the low country mist wrapping around the car. We sat in the interview room until dawn, the fluorescent lights harsh and unforgiving. Marian arrived an hour later, breathless, carrying the folder of research and the recorder with the final confession. Detective Melissa Jones, a calm, steady woman with knowing eyes, looked at everything we'd compiled. "Mrs. Toussaint, are you telling me your husband conspired with Serafina Vance to murder you, and then she attempted to kill you both when you discovered the plot?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you, Detective. And I have proof of everything." Elijah sat beside me, his head in his hands, his cashmere sweater stained with blood from the glass shards. He admitted he wanted out of the marriage and met Serafina 6 months ago, and that she'd convinced him a divorce would ruin him financially. "But I never wanted to actually kill you, Zahara. I swear that was all Serafina's idea, her role-playing." "It was a lie, or half a lie. a desperate final attempt to save himself, but I didn't contradict him. Serafina Vance is extremely dangerous, I told the detective. She's killed before, at least 3 times, men in situations identical to this. We need to find her now. Detective Jones issued an APB for Vance, and an hour later, the door opened. We located Serafina Vance attempting to board a flight to Miami. She's in custody. She's claiming your husband was the primary planner, Zahara. Of course she is, I said simply. At 5 in the morning, my children arrived at the precinct. Langston, Nia, and Kamani, their faces pale with shock and sleepless travel. I told them the complete truth, showed them the evidence, the scheduled messages, the financial transfers. They looked at their father with horror, their expressions a final, irrefutable judgment. "Dad?" Nia whispered, her voice breaking. "You scheduled messages about Mom's funeral? You tried to have her declared incompetent?" "I made terrible mistakes," Elijah mumbled, collapsing into his chair. "I was weak, I was bored, but I never wanted to actually hurt your mother." "You betrayed her, Dad," Kaimani said, his voice hard with cold rejection. "You made a choice, and you almost cost Mom her life and us our entire inheritance." "I think," Langston said slowly, looking at his father with complete rejection, "that you're going to need a lawyer, Dad, and you're not going to be staying with any of us while you wait for trial." Serafina Vance received a sentence of 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and fraud. Elijah's sentencing was quieter, sadder, a slow death of a reputation. 12 years for conspiracy to commit murder, reduced because of his cooperation and guilty plea. The judge was unmoved. "You chose to participate in a plot to murder your wife of 41 years rather than have an honest conversation about divorce. That choice, Dr. Toussaint, reveals profound moral bankruptcy." The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. I kept the house, the retirement accounts, and my share of the practice sale proceeds. Elijah didn't contest anything. The arrogance was gone. Only shame remained. 3 months later, the scent of fresh paint and wood polish filled the Cannonboro-Elliottboro house. I was selling it. I accepted an offer from a young black family who wrote a heartfelt letter about their excitement to raise their children in the historic neighborhood. It was time for a new generation to build a good, honest life within those walls. I drove to the Battery, to the same cold stone bench overlooking the harbor. I had survived through intelligence, courage, and the refusal to be the victim everyone assumed I'd be. But survival was only the beginning. The biggest, most profound mystery remained. Who was I now that I wasn't Elijah's wife, wasn't defined by a 4-decade-long lie, wasn't the keeper of that particular historic home? I began to find out. I joined a new book club, a challenging one focused on contemporary African literature. I started yoga teacher training, learning to command my body with the same focus I'd commanded my mind. I volunteered at the library, helping with digital literacy programs for seniors, teaching them how to secure their digital lives against the very kind of quiet betrayal I had experienced. I discovered that I liked living alone, liked the sudden, blissful silence in the mornings, liked making decisions on my own terms, liked the freedom to be exactly who I was without editing myself for his comfort. 6 months after the sentencing, I received a letter from Elijah, forwarded from his attorney. "Dear Zahara, I was a fool, a coward, a selfish man who threw away everything valuable for a shallow fantasy. I was bored, and instead of dealing with that honestly, I destroyed our life. You were always the strong one. You maintained our home, our social connections, our family bonds. You were the foundation of everything good in my life. And I was planning to kill you rather than have an honest conversation about what I needed. I think about that every day in here. I hope you're building a life that makes you feel as free and alive as you deserve to feel. I hope you know that what you did, fighting back, surviving, refusing to be a victim, that took more courage than I've ever had in my entire life. I'm sorry for everything, Zahara, for all of it. Elijah." I folded the letter carefully and put it in a drawer filled with old tax returns and expired passports. I didn't respond. I didn't forgive him, but I acknowledged his words. And then I moved on. The real victory was building a life so full and satisfying that Elijah's absence didn't leave a hole, but an open window letting in fresh air. 1 year after that terrifying October night, I stood on the small balcony of my new condo overlooking the harbor. A smaller, simpler place, but all mine. My new space was warm and welcoming, filled with books I loved and photographs of people who mattered. It was small, but it was entirely and unequivocally mine. I had spent decades being underestimated, being seen as the quiet wife, the helpful librarian, the nice woman who never made waves, and when it mattered most, that very underestimation had been my greatest weapon, because while Elijah and Serafina were planning my death, I was quietly, persistently planning my survival and my rebirth. Age isn't weakness. Experience isn't obsolescence, and a woman who's lived 66 years has learned things about patience, persistence, and power that young arrogance can never comprehend. I survived because I refused to be the victim they assumed I'd be, and in doing so, I became Zahara Toussaint, wiser, stronger, and finally, completely free. I hope Zahara's journey reminds you that your greatest strength often lies in the wisdom and quiet power you've accumulated over a lifetime. Never let anyone, especially those closest to you, mistake your kindness for naivete or your patience for weakness. Justice is a long road, but it is always worth the fight for your peace and freedom. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a moment where you felt utterly underestimated, only to surprise everyone with your strength? Share your thoughts and where you're listening from in the comments below. Your stories inspire this entire channel. If this story of rebirth resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next powerful life story. You can see 2 more amazing transformations on your screen now. Go check them out. Thank you so much for your sweet support, and I'll see you in the next one.